Okay, in this lesson, we're going to look at RRSPs and the math behind saving for retirement and living off of retirement income, and also just some good practical personal finance advice about why you should consider saving for your retirement and how. Now, I realize as high school students, that's kind of a long ways away to think about not only retirement, but even just being out and working and saving towards that. But really is something that you should think about it sometime. And this is one of those things that students or adults, pardon me, complain that they wish they'd been taught this in school. So this is your opportunity right now. Let's get started. Well, a good place to start would be, what is an RRSP? Well, in short, it stands for Registered Retirement Savings Plan. And these were introduced by the Canadian government in 1975 to help people save for their retirement. The word RRSP, it can be really any type of investment. So it might be that an RRSP has a guaranteed interest rate. Or it could be that it consists of investment that's a mixture of investments, like stocks and bonds, and something that has the potential to provide a high interest rate, but with some risk. So it doesn't really matter what they're involved with. I mean, if you go to the bank and you have some money you want to invest, one thing you could do is buy like a GIC with a guaranteed interest rate of say 2% or something. Or you could let the bank manage your money for you and buy stocks and what are called bonds and stuff like that. And there might be a level of risk. So 1 year, especially during COVID, you may have lost money, you may not have gained money, but in the long run, the idea is that you're probably going to do pretty good. You'll get a higher interest rate if you average it all out between the good years and sort of the bad years. So often when people save for retirement, they'll take some risk because they're saving over 20 years. So in general, a bit of risk is okay. And that's not really the lesson here, but just something so you know, okay? So why would you purchase an RRSP? Why not just put money in a GIC or a savings account for retirement? Well, an RRSP allows you to save a lot of money on taxes. So the tax savings arises because money spent in an RRSP is what's called tax deductible. So you don't actually, if I buy an RRSP or if I contribute to RRSPs, like I save, let's say, $3,000 towards my retirement, I don't pay tax on that $3,000, even though it's money that I've made. Okay, you do pay it during retirement, but that tends to be a benefit, and I'll explain why here. So I think that this is probably pretty confusing unless you see an example. So that's what I'm going to try to run you through. Now, in this example, I have definitely made it simple and rounded some numbers and kept a few things out just to get the real idea that I want you to learn here. So we're going to start with two people who actually make the same amount of money. Okay. So you must, as a worker in Canada, pay income tax. Income tax is tax on money that you make. Now, if you have a job and you don't pay income tax, the reason is that you probably make less than $11,000 a year. So in Canada, it's about $11,000. If you make less than that, you pay zero tax. And most of you, as working students, probably don't make $11,000 in a year. Okay, so for everyone else who does make more than $11,000 a year, taxes in Canada are done in what's called brackets. Any money earned that is $45,000 or less is taxed at around 20%. Money greater than that is taxed at about 28%. So you could imagine that if you make $45,000 or less, you're paying 20% of that goes to income tax. Any money beyond that is taxed at a higher rate. Maybe that's only $1 or $2, in which case just the $1 or $2 is taxed at 28%, and the rest is taxed at 20%. It never hurts you to make more money. You might hear someone out there say that you don't want to make too much money because you'll be in a high tax bracket. That is false. That is completely untrue. It's only the money over a certain threshold, in this case $45,000, that's taxed at a higher amount. Again, I think an example will help here. Let's consider Trevor. Trevor earns $75,000 per year working at Bruce Power. The first $45,000 Trevor makes is taxed at 20%. The rest of his income, which would be $30,000, is taxed at 28%. So how much income tax does Trevor pay in an entire year? Well, he pays 20% of the $45,000 plus 28% of the $30,000. This is the money that's over $45,000 that he made. So 0.2 times 45,000 plus 0.2, sorry, that should be a 0.28. 0.28 times 3,000 gives you 9,000 plus 8,400, or $17,400. So $17,400 in total tax that Trevor pays. Now that comes off of each paycheck likely, and based on how much your bi-weekly pay is, assuming you're paid every other week, they're actually able to figure out about how much you're going to be taxed at. They kind of average these two out correctly. It's not that hard to do. Anytime, by the way, that you pay too much tax or too little tax, the difference is made up at the end of the year when you do your taxes. Have you ever heard your parents say they're doing their taxes, or it's tax season? That's what they mean. During tax season, you figure out how much you did pay in tax, and you compare that to what you should have paid, and you either get money back if you paid too much, or you owe money if you didn't pay enough tax. So there's Trevor, $17,400, a lot of money. Income tax is huge. It is so much more than, I mean, sales tax is nothing compared to what you pay for income tax once you start working. Okay, so there we go. Let's look. That's Trevor's income tax that he pays, somewhere between 20 and 28%, $17,400. Okay, because some of his money's at 20% and some of it's taxed at 28%. Let's compare him to another person who makes the exact same amount of money. So let's consider Stacey. Stacey also works at Bruce Power and makes $75,000 per year. However, she makes contributions to her RRSP because she is thinking ahead about wanting to not work at Bruce Power for the rest of her life and retiring. So let's say this year she put away $7,500 into her RRSP throughout the year. Maybe she did it every week, maybe she did it every month, maybe she actually had it arranged so that the money came right out of her bank account. Sometimes employers will even deduct pay for you to contribute to an RRSP. Okay, Stacey's RRSP contributions are not taxed. Okay, so we calculate her taxes a little differently. We take the money she put into the RRSP and we subtract it from how much she made. And now it's like she only made $67,500. So when we do her taxes, that's the number that we use. We calculate 20% of 45,000, just like with Trevor, and 28% of the remaining, but the remaining instead of 30,000 is only 22,500. Okay, if you take 67,500 and subtract 45,000, that's what you get left. And so we calculate her tax like this, and her tax ends up being only $15,300. So she actually saved, compared to Trevor, although she made the same amount of money as Trevor, she saved about $2,100 in taxes, exactly $2,100 in taxes. And she's also got this $7,500 sitting there collecting interest, saving up for her retirement. So that's how RRSPs save people a lot of money when they're working. I mean, $2,000 is quite a bit. Notice that a quicker way to find her tax savings, we could have just done this. We could have said, look, her income, she clearly makes more than $45,000. So the rest of her income after $45,000 is taxed at 28%. So really, she just saved 28% of $7,500, which is $2,100. Now, if Stacey already paid this extra in tax, she'll get a nice tax return in the spring when she does her taxes. So maybe her and Trevor both have the same amount of tax taken off their pay every paycheck because they make the same amount of money. But at the end of the year, Stacey does her taxes and she has a receipt for all the money she spent on RRSPs, and that gets calculated, and then the government just sends her that as a tax return, $2,000 in the mail, in usually April or something like that, depending when you do your taxes. Some people take that $2,000, they'll turn around and they'll put it in an RRSP for the next year, or they'll spend it on something they like, whatever. Now there is a trick. When Stacey does withdraw this money from her RRSP, hopefully when she's retired, she does pay taxes on it. So if you were thinking about a little scam here, that you could just buy an RRSP, get the money back, and then cash out your RRSP, you can't quite do that. You will pay taxes on the RRSP. So when she sells the $7,500 in RRSPs, that money is now taxed. But she'll likely, when she does that when she's retired, she'll probably be paying a lot less tax because she's in a much lower tax bracket. So remember, the less money you make, the less taxes you pay, the less percentage you pay. So she actually, when she's retired, will probably be better to have that income like claimed in that year. It's almost like you're taking some of your money and deferring when you want to pay your taxes on it. People who are retired generally live off a lot less money, for the reason being they tend to own their home. And so once you own a home, that's a major expense that you no longer have to worry about. So now we're just going to look at some of the mathematics behind retirement savings plan. I mean, the rest of the beginning of the lesson was math as well. The purpose there was just to explain to you why RRSPs can end up saving people so much money. Now let's do some annuity work. So assume Stacey's 30 years old. She puts aside $625 per month into an RRSP. That would actually give her that $7,500 if you multiply by 12. Okay. The money collects interest at an average rate of 5.3%. Okay, that's a lot higher than a GIC, but since the money's in there for long term, she might be playing with it and taking a bit of risk with it, with the idea that in the long run she's going to get a good interest rate. She hopes to retire at age 60, so she's going to do this for 30 years. When she retires at age 60, how much money will her RRSP savings be worth? So we're talking about starting with nothing, her making payments of $625 per month for 30 years, okay? And well, 30 years would be 30 times 12. That's the number of months, or our like N value. The number of payments she's going to make is 30 times 12. Okay, so 360. So this is an example where we could use the future value formula to figure out how much this is worth, or we could use a TVM solver. In today's lesson, I'm going to use the TVM solver. So I've got my TVM solver here. Okay, she starts with nothing. The present value is 0. She makes payments of $625, so we put negative 625 there. We want to figure out the future value. The interest rate per year is 5.3, compounded monthly, and then the number of months, 30 years at 12 months in a year, was 360. So we click future value, and there we see she has almost $550,000 saved up there. Okay, so there we have it, $549,992.15. So this represents her savings, her future value at age 60. That $625 per month is collected interest and has grown to this. And now she retires at age 60. So when she retires, she takes the money, that's this right here, okay? She puts it into what's sometimes called a retirement income plan. She does not need this money on day one of retirement, okay? Hopefully she's not going out there and buying a yacht or something with all that money. She's got to live off of it. So the money's still going to collect interest, quite a bit of interest. In fact, if it doesn't collect interest, it's probably not enough to live off of. Now, this says she'll make monthly payments. It really says she will get monthly payments, okay, because she's living off the money, and plans to live till age 90. So now the question is, starting with this amount of money, the $549,992.15, how does that money get split up into equal monthly withdrawals for 30 years, which again, 30 years is 360 months. So the amount of time that she's going to save for her retirement is the same as the amount of time that she's going to be retired for, or plans to be retired for. So to answer this question, this is now a present value question. She has a big lump sum of money. She's going to make equal monthly withdrawals from it and plan for it to all be gone at age 90. So we can, again, we have a choice. We can either use the present value formula and solve for R, the payment amount, or we can use the TVM solver. And I'm going to continue with using the TVM solver today. So back to the TVM solver. So the payments we no longer know. Our present value is the starting amount of her retirement. That's not this right here. I can actually just copy that out and put it in there. Now we usually make it negative. It doesn't really matter, but you think of it as money she's paid into this retirement income plan. The future value is going to be 0 at age 90. The interest rate is the same, and the periods happen to be the same as well, because we're saying from age 60 to age 90. So then we can solve, and we get $3,054.13. So that's her monthly payout that she can get each month, and she can live off of that during retirement. Okay, so there you see the answer, $3,054.13 per month for 30 years is what she gets. Now, you'll notice $3,000 a month, that's not a whole lot of money. I mean, it's a little less than $40,000 per year. So that's way less than the $75,000 per year she was earning working at Bruce Power in this made-up example. But people often can live off of quite a bit less when they're retired. I think mostly due to the fact that they hopefully have paid for their house. So we'll look at mortgages later on in this unit. But a big expense for people is the cost of owning a home or purchasing a home. And generally speaking, someone waits until they paid off their home before they retire. So there's a big expense they no longer have to worry about. Some people wait until their children are done college or university as well. Now she'll pay tax on this amount as she withdraws it, but she's clearly in a less of a tax bracket than before. Now, this question is really important too. Like, how much interest did she earn in total? So from during her savings period, or working period, how much interest did she earn? And during her retirement period, how much interest did she earn? So let's take a look at calculating that now. So start with while she is working. So while she was working, she managed to accumulate that $549,992.15. And she got that from making payments of $625. Remember, she did that every month for 30 years or 360 times. Now, if you were to take 625 and multiply it by 360, you find you don't get this amount. The reason there's extra money there is, of course, because of the interest. So if I just plug this into a calculator quickly, I can see she makes $324,992.15 in interest. So actually, most of this money saved for her retirement came from interest, not actually the money that she put away. Now let's talk about during retirement. So during her retirement, she collected $3,054.13 every month for 30 years, so also 360 times. Now that amount that she collected came from the amount that she'd saved, okay, the $549,000. So, but that will be more than that. So we subtract again to figure out the difference. 992.15. If we do that, we get the interest that she earned during retirement, which is sorry, 5,049.92 gives you $549,494.65. Now those numbers happen to be very close, just kind of by coincidence. So another $500,000 just in interest during her retirement. And now we can add those two up to get the total. The total interest will be the $549,494.65, the money while retired plus the money while working, which is the $324,992. 15. If I add those together, I'll get the final answer for the total interest. And I add them together and I get $874,486.80. So this person made almost $1 million over their lifetime just in interest. And that's actually how people are able to retire at a young age and not need to make any more money. Okay, I hope you find that useful, and thanks for tuning in.